Catholicism. And some of it is philosophy, but some of it really is very good, and we hold to it today. So, Thomas Aquinas lived in an age where people were beginning to start universities in Europe. And there was a question, well, if the Bible is let's see, the Bible he would call faith in the revelation of God from the Bible. And he said that's one kind of learning. What Europeans and the church are trying to discover, well, how about other kinds of learning? And this is where he would call it faith. The other thing he would call reason, which today we're more likely to call scientific investigation or study. And what he said was, he said faith and reason are not in opposition to each other. They can work together. Now, how did he justify this? He says, when you use reason to study, you're actually studying God's creation. So because you're studying the creation, it will tell you something about what, folks? The Creator. He said, you can use reason to prove that there's a God. He says, but even better is just to accept it by faith. The popes of his day and the religious leaders listened to this thinking and embraced it. And thus universities were formed where the Word of God was taught and people studied the Scriptures, learned Latin so they could read a Bible, but they also studied different scientific pursuits. Now thrown in here is what you would call philosophy. And I don't agree with Thomas, but he also believed that philosophy could be reconciled with faith. Maybe if he lived 1,000 years later, he'd think differently, because we have so many different philosophies. It's, some of them are so opposed to the faith of Christianity, it's incredible. But there's all kinds of different philosophies today. So, their idea of learning was learning to reconcile faith and reason. And they had a method, which I did mention, I think the last time I was here, that not followed often today. They would, at the university, there would be lectures, no questions asked. Someone would study a great work of literature or something from the Bible and would teach it. They also had sessions that you would call debates, where they would actually take two books that seemed to be in opposition to each other, express what's in each of them, and then they were supposed to create a synthesis between them. That was the mode of learning. I don't know that it's all right, but that all came from Thomas Aquinas. So universities and the church acceptance of studying secular subjects we can go back to Aquinas. But he started, I think he was a Benedictine monk, and then he decided to become a Dominican, because the Dominicans went amongst the people and preached. And his family was so upset about it, they kidnapped him for a year and tried to brainwash him back to the other order, but he wouldn't change. They let him go finally. So, he is all kinds of, he had his own philosophy, and it's deep, and I don't want to get into it. But we did learn something good came from this man. And I tell Christians this when I teach at a Christian high school, I says, we're not afraid of scientific research. If the science is done honestly, you'll end up with the same conclusions as the Scriptures. But when you're using human reason, along the way you may make a lot of mistakes with a lot of scientific theories that you have to throw out later on. Right? Yeah. Well, anyways, and you dare say that any of those theories are not true, oh, crucify, persecute, and then finally someone has to admit, well, actually there's a fault in them. Oh, but anyways, this began with Aquinas, the universities, and the church's acceptance of them. I'll mention one more thing a moment. Oh, I went way over tonight. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Well, you get a short second class. He believed in Aristotle's philosophy, in Aristotle's scientific ideas, and some of them were endorsed as church doctrine. And then when the Aristotle scientific proof ended up to be false, it made the church look like a real fool. Okay? Thank Aquinas for that too. That was the downside of that. So, we'll get to, if some of you know the story of Galileo, he was dealing with a church that was dedicated to ancient Greek scientific ideas. And when he decided the real rotation of the planets around the sun and the universe, because he could see them through a telescope, the church fathers were not happy with him. And it goes back to, they were bound to what Thomas taught from Aristotle. Yeah, it really happened. Okay, take a break, folks.